Volume 2 of Stranger Things 4 is now streaming on Netflix, which brings the fourth season to a conclusion. A lot of people have been very anticipated for this, and there's a lot to talk about after the 2 episodes that I just watched, which amount to about 4 hours of runtime, the last episode being about 2 hours and 22 minutes. There's so much to go into, but I'm going to do this in tiers. We're going to do spoiler-free first. When I have to get into spoilers, I'll give you guys multiple warnings that it's coming. So before that, no need to worry, or you can just look at the chapter breaks below. Up until now, we've seen quite a bit happen in the fourth season. The characters are in a very desperate situation, and with the reveal of who Vecna really is, everything seems to be coming to a head. And that's where episodes 1 to 7, that's what they did, and that's where we left Volume 1. That was about a month ago. Now we're heading into 8 and 9, where we still see things very, very dire, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a very fun conclusion to this. It's like they might pull something off, but there's going to be collateral damage perhaps, or maybe some people are not going to make it out, or maybe they just won't win in any way. But I was very interested in seeing what would happen, and a lot of things that I said in my review of the first volume carry forward into here. Once again, you get phenomenal performances from everyone. Everybody's really, really great in here, and seeing 11 fully charged up with power again was awesome. There are some wonderful moments that you get with that, some really awesome badass moments, which I'll talk more about in the spoilers section later on in this review. But as far as a conclusion goes, do I like this? Yes. I would argue I love this, in fact. I don't know what people were expecting in some cases. I'm not sure if everyone's going to love what Season 4 ends up doing. But I said in my Volume 1 review I was holding back on grades until I'd seen the entire thing. And having seen the entire thing, I can tell you that what we're getting now is fantastic. I love the overall season. I think it's really, really well done. I think there are some plot things here and there which could have been better, or just done slightly more in a developed manner. Some things definitely are gripes. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not a perfect season. There's so much happening in here that you lose your way on a few things. Like, there was that big plot line about the entire city basically going to war because they're trying to get the Hellfire Club, and with that, the basketball team sort of leading it. But you don't get anything there. Like, after a while, that just sort of fizzles out. In fact, the charge is still the jocks. So it's not like you get anything with the town going like, come on, get them. They seem to go in and out of places pretty normally after a while. But nonetheless, besides all of that stuff, the core storylines that it's following, eventually with 11 and then Matthew Modine, Dr. Brenner still being alive and her having to deal with that, all of those character revelations are done very strongly. Vecna is terrifying, as always, and they do a really great job with telling the rest of his story, and we'll again talk more about that. It's very hard to keep spoiler free because eventually you're going to have to go into more extended thoughts. But let's talk about another thing that comes through really well, which is the visual flair of it. I mean, technically, like I said in Volume 1, so this is a brilliant season. There's money on the screen and you can see it. And this is, once again, a spectacular couple of episodes. It brings together so many different visual elements, and it's honestly spectacular. It looks better than special effects I've seen in movies recently. Like the environments and stuff like that are genuinely phenomenal. All the money that's been pumped into this, every cent was used. There were some shots, though, that didn't seem totally complete, and I think I know why, because right before I hit play on this, there was a bit of an article online that some 20 VFX shots went in and they weren't fully rendered into the episodes yet, so if you click play right now, you might not see them. I think I know what they're talking about, because there's one shot involving blue light and 2 characters walking through it, and you can kind of tell the outline around the characters. Like, there is this background behind them, and I thought that would be a little distracting. Unless, of course, that was not supposed to be the case, but it just felt a little slightly rough. Like, I feel like they must have corrected something and sent that in. But aside from that, most of the CGI, like pretty much all of it, seemed to come together. I couldn't find the other 19 shots, or maybe I wasn't looking enough. But I am very satisfied with it. Once again, the soundtrack is great, some great musical choices. There is a scene they've hyped up quite a bit involving Eddie Munson on a guitar. That scene, incredible. The song that he's playing, I don't want to give it away right now. Again, it's going to be in this section with the spoilers. We're getting there. We're almost there. Bear with me. But overall, I'm very satisfied with the season. And you know what? I can't anymore. We can't talk spoiler free anymore. So we're gonna go into details. But before I do, massive spoiler warning. You're being warned right now that I'm going to go into it. Did I love the season overall? Yes. Here's why. Spoiler warning, one more time, done. What I really loved about this volume too is that it also managed to connect things even further to the first season in ways that it made resonant for like character decisions. For example, when you eventually get to Dr. Brenner's, what he's trying to do and all the stuff that has led to this moment, there are lots of actualization moments. There's lots of moments where you're just able to put it together. Like, you're the one who's really at fault for so much of all of this going down. You're the one who was the catalyst. And there's this emotional confrontation that eventually happens between Eleven and him that leads to a big action sequence. Like I mentioned, Eleven has some badass moments thanks to getting her powers back. There's a scene where the army eventually does show up, knocking at the facility. They try to come and kill her. They eventually kill most people, including Brenner, but Eleven manages to take down this chopper that's just shooting out bodies that are coming out the door. And that scene was incredible. Eventually, all the other guys like Mike and Will and all of them, they all show up in that pizza van. And it's great to see them sort of have a bit of a reunion. Obviously, they have to do reunions because these characters are all sort of converging in on one plot point, and it's really well handled. But they also find interesting ways to make all of these things happen from different locations. Like, they're able to say, like, okay, we might not be able to be in that specific spot right now, but we can do this from here. Let's try doing this. And so Eleven, for instance, is trying to help Max because she's the next victim on Vecna's list. And she's trying to use it in terms of like a piggyback ride. Essentially, the season finale called The Piggyback is all about that. She's also chiming in terms of like what Vecna is doing into her mind, and so is able to battle Vecna as a result of it. That doesn't go super well. Like, there are things that are done in terms of like stopping Vecna from totally killing Max, but it happens enough that her heart stops for a minute and in the real world, and she does die horrifically for 1 minute. But that's enough to cause a massive earthquake of sorts across Hawkins, basically tear up the ground, unleash the upside down on the real world, and now it's no longer about, hey, there's some cult that is believing in some nonsense that we don't know about. It's no longer unexplained. Now it's out there in full view for everybody to see. And that particular conclusion that it builds to was really chilling stuff. I'm actually super interested in seeing what they do with season 5 now, the series finale stuff, because there's so much that they have left to do. Which is funny because at one point in time during the season finale, I was looking at my watch and thinking, well, that's it. That's it. Like, we're done. So why do we still have 45 minutes left on the clock? Oh, yeah, we're not done yet. Obviously, there's one more season left. Yeah, so, plot contrivances and all that. We have to make certain things happen in a very specific way so we can lead into that. Okay, fine. Let's talk about Eddie Munson for a little bit. Throughout this entire season, this poor guy has known some shit. I mean, after the town has just been hunting him for the death of Chrissy, Jason's girlfriend or whatever, like once all of that has died down, him constantly being on the run from things eventually concludes in him not running anymore. And when he's taking on these bat creatures from Vecna in the Upside Down, eventually he's like, no, you know what? I'm gonna buy you some time. You guys are probably gonna be able to pull this off, this mission. I'm gonna go and make sure that you guys do it. And he sacrifices himself as a result of that. Now, I had a feeling that that was going to happen because they eventually, at one point in time during interviews, were like, oh, I'd like to be back for season 5. The actor said this. And the moment he said that, I was like, yeah, he's not making it. Like, we knew this was going to happen. And so his death was expected. Like, I knew it was going to go down the way it did. I didn't expect it to be the exact way it happened. It was much more theatrical, I would say, but yeah, it's gonna crush a lot of people, but I knew it was coming. And the aftermath when when Dustin's talking to his dad at the basketball court. I thought that was really lovely, but it's something that I knew was coming. Max dying was scary because I didn't want that to happen. I said in my Volume 1 review, I thought Sadie Sink was incredible and one of the best performances of the entire season. And that's still the case over here, and so Max has now become my favorite character. I don't want anything to happen to Max. And the good news is that 11 manages to just about tap in for a second and keep her from just about dying. And so at the end of the season, they're still left vague on what exactly are we going to get out the other end in terms of where she is, because in her brain she's not there. So I'm kind of curious as to how they're eventually going to bring her back. But there is a chance, by a sliver. So that's hopeful, we'll see how that concludes. Oh, in all of this, I forgot to talk about Joyce and Hopper. They get together finally! Finally! After all this time! I feel like I should have actually talked about this very early on. That happens, and that entire Russia storyline, it ends in a bloodbath. So great. All the demo dogs, they do an Alien 3 in that moment, which is pretty sweet. Speaking of references, there's a few in here. You see at one point in time, there's Max stuck in the Upside Down with Vecna, and the balloons start bursting and it's blood within them. That was like a it moment right there. I thought that was really sweet. There's already so much going on in terms of Vecna when it comes to Freddy Krueger and Pennywise things that it just all came together very, very nicely. Eventually finding out Vecna is in fact the Mind Flayer. All of it is basically just Vecna was pretty sweet as well. There are so many things that suddenly come together in this season, like I was mentioning, that I think they've done a pretty great job of it. Is it overstuffed at times? Sure. There were certain things that I feel like were a bit too much to handle. There's messiness here and there. Like I said, I mentioned there are some gripes that I have, but am I satisfied overall? Am I happy with the season overall? Absolutely. I think what we finally got is a damn good season of TV. It could have been better in some areas, but I'm excited to see what's going to happen in season 5 and how the series is eventually going to conclude. And for that, I think if you can accomplish just wanting more from it, that's great, right? I'm going to give Stranger Things 4 an A-. That's the final grade right there and there. That's it. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the movies.